And we are rolling. You ready?
I'm ready.
Are you out of breath?
No, I'm good.
I'm not out of breath either. Notice?
I can tell you're
I have
doing
not
great.
been working out. I haven't been lifting. I haven't been moving microphones or setting up cameras.
No.
I cannot wait to release this bonus episode that people are hearing today is because this was going to be like 3 weeks from now, but the 2 interviews we did with our guests that will remain nameless until we do the little promo for them, we shot with 2 cameras, had 2 cameras set up, which, you know, we got to do our audio. We got to kill the audio on the little iPhone cameras, but one of our cameras crapped out. We found out in the middle of the filming.
Yay.
So I'm trying to figure out if we want to release them like that or do audio only, but I haven't punted yet, and they're going to be fantastic. The interviews were great, I can't wait. Man, the content is so good, but I just haven't given up yet. One of them looked like it may have gotten the whole thing, both cameras. The other one, I think it cut off like the last 18, 19 minutes, which would be awkward where you're hearing us and just staring at the reaction of the person. But they did a lot of the talking, and maybe we'll just go with that, and people will deal with it.
Personally, I think we should go with audio only.
Okay.
Because you just know how to do that now in your sleep.
Audio only could be released. Yeah, right now.
I know you, and you are a perfectionist and a bulldog, and you're going to want to make this happen where you splice all this stuff together. And you're good at it, but it's not exactly in your wheelhouse to where you can just do it with ease.
Well,
so I
AI,
know it's going to
AI is your friend and can help a lot. But the other thing is, I mean, the reason why we quit doing video podcasts, it wasn't worth the bang for our buck, because we started seeing on our analytics that most people were listening and not watching, which that's what I do. I mean, even if people, sometimes you watch it, but a lot of times you're driving or you're working out, you're walking, you're on the road, whatever you're doing. And again, obviously the podcast, most people are listening, but if you can watch it, sometimes it's cool, depending on, if people are, doing something or showing something, or they're talking about something, referring to something that you want to see. But that's usually more involved, like, Graham Hancock showing, pictures of the Sphinx or something.
Yeah.
And the erosion. But no. So we'll figure it out. But this is going to be a shorter episode because it is like I said, the bonus episode that we had to, we had those other 2 banked. We thought we were going to be releasing, but technical difficulties got us. So here we go. Let's talk about how to love the things your kids love, even when you don't love them. And I don't mean you don't love your kids. I mean, when you don't love all the things that your kids love.
Yes.
So, for instance, I used to tell my kids, do not use the words rap and music in the same sentence because it's like, there's no such thing. I hated rap. Rap wasn't my thing. I was more of a classic rock guy, as you know. But my kids loved rap. And more importantly, as it turns out, Carson started becoming a music producer. And he was producing rap music and really just the melodies. It's not like he was doing raps, but he was making the beats, right? And he became a very successful music producer. And he loves that, and we love Carson. So therefore, it's not that we love rap music. No,
rap music.
but I support him, and I love him, and I want him to do well, and I'm so proud of him. So it's not like I despise what he does, and it's not like I despise that music that he makes. It's actually incredible, the music that he makes. And it just so happens that some of these rap bozos rap on top of it. Music's great. But no, so that's one example of how we support Carson all the way. And we didn't deter him from, doing that. That was his dream. It was his passion. It was his gifting. He's got a lot of those. But one of the things he wanted to pursue, and so we said, go for it. Matter of fact, I outfitted him with all the stuff he needed to do that, to become successful, because I wanted him to have everything, because I saw the potential. I saw the drive and the love, and I saw his gifts, man. I thought, this kid, there's something special there. Sure enough. And I wanted my Mac back, because he had kind of taken my Mac. So that's one example. Talk about, some other things that you can think of. One area is when maybe your kids start dating somebody and they wouldn't have been our first pick, but all of a sudden we love them and support them in their relationship. Talk about that.
So we did have a question from one of our listeners about that. What do we do when one of our kids is dating someone that you're not sure about? Another example that someone asked, how do you continue to support and be okay when your kids are making choices that you wouldn't make you don't agree with? So all of this is your adult kids are getting bigger and making choices that are different than what you would have picked for them. So as far as like people,
well, you said adult kids. So, right. But what about kids that are like still like, I don't know, elementary school, middle school, high school?
Right.
I mean, let's talk about all that.
Okay. So I think when they're younger, the approach that we always took was to always just be very open with them and let them know, be curious about, so tell me what as if it was somebody they were dating, so tell me what it is that you really like about him or you really see in her, and just start a conversation. And I think many times we were very surprised at what we heard.
Yeah.
So I think many times we move into a discussion with our kids and it's like we are going to tell them what they should or should not do or who they should or should not date. And we come down with this kind of mandate. And guess what? Every single time you go in hard like that, they're going to dig their heels in and push back a little bit harder. So I think when you can hold things a little bit more loosely and be more curious about them instead of being just guns a-blazing, telling them what they're doing wrong all the time, I just think there is so much good conversation that can come from that. And you may just be really surprised at what you find out.
First, it's interesting, like you said, when, the things that you start to push back against in an effort to control your kids. Right. And it's the stuff that sometimes it's just, you living vicariously through them. It's the things you want them to pursue. It's the things that maybe you are in love with and the people that you're in love with and you want them to love them or you want them to be interested in that career or that sport. And that's really, really interesting because a lot of times, you see that and it's the parent that's just wanting to obviously live their glory days through their kid or, maybe the kid is interested, he picked up the passion of the father or the mother but once they go down that path, instead of them being able to take it or leave it, it's like, no, you're going to take it. And and man, I really want you to do that. So first, if you can just catch yourself, how much control are you trying to exert over your kid to pursue a certain type of person or a certain, again, career path or hobby, sport. We see it a lot in athletics. And why? Ask yourself why. Why is it so important for them to do that thing? Is that about you or is that about them? And as you said, babe, when you control, they will rebel. Control begets rebellion, right? And so the more you back off, there's nothing to rebel against. But then people say, well, is that love? If you just let your kid do anything, is it just carte blanche? You can do whatever you want, like whoever you like, date whoever you want to date. That wasn't our approach. Obviously, you try to guide them. You want to raise them. They're your kids. We've talked about that in our parenting workshop. They aren't just this little malleable piece of clay that you're totally forming into something. They're this person. God created them in his image, and he said it's good. And so you're trying to discover a lot of times who is this person and how I can fan into flame who they are, encourage them to be who God's created them to be. But so we did want to obviously parent them and steer them, nurture them, guide them, give them. I think I said this in the parenting workshop. It's not, it's used as a pejorative when we talk about parenting now. Like, hey, are you supposed to be able to control your kids? And it's like, or program them, brainwash them. You're putting your stuff and your values on them. Yeah, it's called a family and it's called parenting. So we've learned a few things. And so people push back against that because of maybe some of the abuse and that authoritarian, control, and people do want to rebel against that. And I get why in many, circumstances, but yeah, we've lived a long time and we've developed some priorities and some values and we've found some truth, and we do want to nurture that and pass that on to our kids. And, yes, we want to teach them to critically think and think for themselves and all that. But so I think our approach was we want to, you said it earlier, we want to have a conversation with you and let's hear from you why you're interested in this thing, why you're interested in this person, and what is it about them. And if we hear something that's maybe troubling, now let's talk about it. But we never put our foot down and say, you're not going to date this person or you're not going to pursue this, this rap career. Yeah.
I'm thankful that we didn't really ever have to do that. I get it that there are some times where younger kids are making some really bad choices and the parents do have to put their foot down.
And say no.
Put down some boundaries. And luckily we did not really have to do that. But I do feel like we really tried to spend time being curious with our kids and trying to let them explain to us why something was important to them or why someone was important to them. And I feel like we learned so much along the way when we listened to our kids. It would have been hard to go in with an iron fist and just say, you're going to do this or you're not going to do this. And
when we see parents say, you're not going to date that person, you've just sealed, man, they're going to dig in their heels, like you said, and they will. It's like, I'll show you. I will date this person and no one's going to stop me. And then they're sneaking around or hiding, or they're just doing it to spite you, even if they would have on their own come to that natural conclusion of saying, this person's not for me. So the more you clamp down, the more that person just has the tendency to say, man, you're stupid. You don't know anything. You're old. You don't know what you're talking about. And I'm going to do my own thing. I always say, let your default answer be yes. Try to let your default answer with your kids be yes. Now, hear me. We said no a lot. And you can, if you start with a no, if everything's a no, it's hard to move to a yes. But if you start with a yes, you can move to a no. But then what I found is when we said yes a lot, it's like, you know what? Let's just say yes when we can. But so then when I do say no, there's a reason. And my kids, our kids didn't really fight it. They just thought, okay, well, Dad says, Mom and Dad, usually we were in united front on that stuff. We would consult each other. We'd talk about it. But if we said yes and the kids knew that our default was pretty much yes, they may be a little bit shocked at first, like, what? You said no? Y'all always say yes. It's like, no, there's a reason. It's a no this time.
And I think the whole default answer, let it be yes, starts at a younger age when you've got, you're tired as a mom or as a dad, you've been working all day. And when they're very little, can I do this? Can I go here? Can I go play with? And really the easiest answer many times is no, we're not going to, no, we're not going to do that right now. No, maybe later. No, it's easier to say no because when you give the yes, there's usually a little bit more work on your part. There's a little bit more thought on your part. So, when they're little and they want to go to so-and-so's house, you've got to call the mom. You got to work it out. You got to get in the car and drive them. Or, when they were wanting to go to Highland Village was the big place that our kids wanted to go when they were a little bit older. So you've got to go pick up a few of their friends and take the bus to Highland Village. And so it would just many times be easier to say no.
Yeah.
But when you realize life is just, it's more fun when you can say yes. Your kids are on an adventure. Yeah. You may be tired, but they're not tired.
Yeah. Well, so many times you said it when we might life about us. Like, life doesn't revolve around your kids. Okay. You're right, and it shouldn't. And they need to know that the universe does not
they
just
can't do
revolve around them
all the time.
But being, like you said, man, being a part of their story and knowing that you are giving them a story to live in. And if they don't, as Donald Miller pointed out in his book, 1,000 miles in 100 miles in 1,000 years, 1,000 miles in 1,000, whatever that book title is. Sorry, Donald.
Sure, he's
listening 1,000,000 miles in 1,000 years. Is that it? Anyway, it's about story. And basically saying, if you could see your life as a story, like you're going to go and sit down in a movie theater and watch your life on screen, like what's the action? And so many of us have a lot of stuff, intentions and all these feelings and emotions inside. But it's like, what's playing out? Like, what are you doing? And basically, as they were, I guess, starting to make a movie about the story of Donald Miller's life, he realized, man, it's boring. And so he just talks about, we want to have a story that we want to be a part of. Like, am I a hero in our story? Is there a challenge? Is there some obstacle to overcome? What's the drama, right? And what's the arc, the storyline? And if you don't, many times we're not giving our kids a compelling story to live in. And they want to play another role. They want to be in another family. They don't want to be in our story. And many times that's because you're making it about you and you're not encouraging them to be who they are. I think about, again, with athletics, it's so, I wanted both my boys to play football because I love football. I love basketball. And I thought, man, I wonder if they're going to, do basketball. I wonder if they're going to pursue music. And when I saw Carson's musical abilities, oh, wow, man, is he going to play the piano? Is he going to play the guitar? Right? Like Dad. Is he going to end up on the drums or going to play bass? Well, he ends up, he's behind a console. He's making music digitally and not as proficient, and he could be on instruments. But man, I encourage that, and it wasn't that. Oh man, I'm disappointed because this is his life. It's not mine. When I saw Chan and her athletic ability outside, just messing around, and she started shooting threes. I thought, man, you need to be playing basketball. And after upwards, right, where they don't even keep score, she started playing basketball. But a couple things. I mean, she wouldn't shoot in the game. I'm like, man, shoot. This girl can shoot. She'd pass it. If I pass it, then I can't make a mistake. If I pass it, then I can't miss a shot. So she just didn't have that competitive bone in her body, and she didn't love it. And you know what? She quit playing. And, whether it was volleyball, basketball, it's like, is it okay if your kid's not doing the stuff that you want them to do, and can you be okay with that? And I think you're setting the tone right there. You're showing them, man, I trust you. I trust your decisions. I trust your judgment. When they're dating someone, okay, like who's this kid? My daughter's going out with, or who's this girl? My son's, going with, whatever they're going out with, or it's, is that the person that I would have chosen? Is that the thought I had when I dreamed up that person that they were going to be with? And what's interesting is when you start looking at that, is that about you or is that about your kid?
Yeah, I think so many times we worry about our kids. We just want to put them in bubble wrap. And so we try to see, okay, this is who our kid is. You already try to predetermine what they're going to like and what they're not going to like and what they should do and not do. And so when they start maybe paying attention to someone or starting to date, you're overlaying your ideas of what you think they should like. And that may be totally different than what they would pick. Yeah.
Obviously, we're not them. They're not us. We're old. They're cool and young and hip. Again, their tastes are different than ours. And what I started to say, and I got off and said, it's about me and not them. It's deeper than that. And just like I said earlier, when it's showing them that we trust their decision making and their judgment, well, when it comes to dating, nothing could either show the kid that you trust them or you don't by, do you approve of this? And I keep wanting to say partner or mate. It's not their future mate many times when they're in junior high or high school. It's just somebody they're dating, they like. And when you show them, I trust you, I trust that you can get into this relationship and you can see if this person aligns with your values, with the things that you want in life, with somebody that you just want to hang out with. Are they a good example? Are they fun to hang out with? Are they tearing you down, or are they building you up? Are they somebody that your friends really gravitate towards or not? And when you come in and put your foot down, you're not gonna. It's like, wait, you're really telling your kid, I don't trust you. You're not capable of making a good decision. And I can hear right now some parents think, well, they're showing that they're not capable of making good decisions. Well, we want our kids to grow up. We want them to mature. We want them to be, quote, responsible. But we have to remember at certain times they're not responsible. They're not mature. But how are they going to do that, right? It's not you telling them what they can and can't do. It's allowing them to make, and let's just say it, we got to allow them to make their own decisions and allow them to make mistakes. There's no other way they learn, right? Now, we don't want them to make that life-altering, critical mistake that could cost them dearly, right? Whether it's jail time, pregnancy, a car wreck, killing themselves. But many times those are our worst fears, and we're putting that and overlaying that over every situation. And that, if we're not careful, that's when our kids start looking at us like, you're ridiculous. Like, what are you thinking? Like, who are you? And who do you think I am? Again, they go back to that. Do you not trust me at all? Yeah.
One thing I appreciated, I think, as our kids were growing up is it seemed like, as far as dating, whoever they were dating, whatever age, they were 16, 17, 18, we really got to know the people that they were dating.
And love them.
And we did. We loved them. And so they would come over and hang out at the house, and we got to know the other family. So that was important for us. Yeah, that we at least knew.
Sorry, I just interrupted you. You said I saw it coming. So we had a huge lightning and
that
thunder.
Was loud.
Go ahead.
That was loud. I don't know if they could hear that.
Yeah, probably not. But it was. Yeah, it was so weird too, because I saw the strike and then I waited, and it was several seconds, so miles away, I guess.
We got a big storm,
and then the
in
thunder,
right
and but I got really calm and was just still, and I thought, okay, here comes tornado.
Yikes!
So anyway, and we supported we supported the kid, and we supported that the person they dated, their girlfriend, boyfriend, and we included them and treated them like family and like they were one of our own. And they just could tell, like, mom and dad really, really loved them. And we were interested in them. And like I think I said this, but maybe this is on a previous episode or some other conversation we were having, that you collect those even the ones the kids would make fun of you, even after they broke up, you would still be in that relationship and think about them. You would text them, you would call them, send them a birthday note. It's just, I remember you never wanted to let go. You hoard people like things. Yeah.
Mom, you might as well just start a freaking small group with all my old girlfriends.
All my exes live in Texas, baby. Yeah. So and that's, I think, nothing can show the kid that you trust them. And some people, again, well, what happens if they're not trustworthy? Okay. Well, again, until our kids gave us a reason not to trust them, we're going to trust them. And then we're going to give them another opportunity to regain or rebuild our trust, right? If they've blown it. Get curfew. Like, I'm not going to give my kids a curfew unless they need a curfew, right? It's just so interesting how a lot of people are parenting based on the perceptions or the idea of other parents around them. Like, I don't want to be the odd man out. I don't want to be the one that's, being a little more lenient or letting my kids get away with this or that. Especially sometimes in the Christian community, there are these things that we think are the quote Christian ways to parent, and we're not really thinking like intentionally about things we allow our kids to do or not do. There were things that we did that seemed pretty permissive based on some Christian parents. But we were very intentional about those things. There was a reason. And so I remember when, we, at 13 years old, my boys had this rite of passage where they would go on this faith walk, and I had men that had friends of mine that had meant something to them and been walking alongside them in some capacity. A friend of mine who was hanging around them a lot that they saw, or that they maybe were friends with that dad's kids, a coach, a teacher, somebody, a youth leader, and they would take them on this walk, and we'd talk about, money and jobs and girls and sex and faith and all that. And at the end, we'd go have a steak dinner.
That was really cool.
And then we would watch Braveheart. And people said, wait a minute, wasn't there some kind of nudity in Braveheart, or wasn't there violence in Braveheart? And it's like, yeah, And guess what? The movie was the most incredible teachable moment for me to have a person who was one of the most symbolically representative Christ figures that I had ever seen in a movie. William Wallace, who was this leader and who was fighting for freedom. And so if nobody's ever put that together, you need to go rewatch Braveheart. Yeah. But there was an intentionality around why I wanted to show my kids, my boys especially, this movie. It wasn't just like, hey, Tombstone, the cool movie, right? Which Tombstone is a great movie, but this was something that was a teachable moment. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that faith walk? Kind of describe what you did. I remember about it, but just for everyone listening,
it's something that's so cool to do with your son, and it made him feel like, hey, you know what? At 13 years old, I'm becoming a man, and so my dad would surround me with men that were influential, friends of his, and influential in my life as the kid, and it just showed him that we saw him as one of ours, right? And he's coming into the man community. And so masculinity is bestowed upon him by other men, right? And so, yes, it takes a village, and there's incredible things that he gets from a mom, but it was the stuff that we surrounded him with that was going to shape how he thought about certain things. And so one of my friends then would take him, and we would drop them off literally in. You can do it in a park, you can do it around, a neighborhood, but we had guys at different stations, if you will. And so he started the walk, and they're walking down through, you can say by Grapevine Lake, and the one is talking to him about dating and relationships. Another one's talking, and he walks a few hundred yards, and then all of a sudden he passes him off to the next guy, and they're going to talk about finances, and then the next guy's going to talk about his faith walk and his relationship with Jesus and what that means. Another guy's going to talk about marriage. And so it was just these guys who were talking about these important concepts and these values and these priorities. And he's hearing from these other guys that he's saying, wow, my dad trusts these guys with my growth and my development, my maturity. And so there was all these surrogate fathers who were going to have a piece of raising this kid. And at 13 years old, he knew, man, these guys are surrounding me.
Matter to,
and they've got my back. They're for me. It's not just these guys who are looking out and, will thump me on the head if I'm being a knucklehead. No, it's like these guys, they really want to see me succeed. And they all had a gift to give him that was representative of their part of the talk. And, I know that they'll save those gifts and they'll have those as mementos, and they'll always remember that faith walk.
Very cool.
And of course, no faith walk would be complete without ending at La Hacienda Ranch with the ribeye steak.
That sounds so good.
So they'd have that steak, and it was a very, very meaningful thing to both of our boys. And I would encourage everybody to do that. And if you think, well, crap, I missed 13, okay, do it when they're 16. Do it when they're 17. Do it when they're 18. I think it's never there. I mean, maybe if they're 40, living in your basement playing video games, the ship has sailed and you missed it.
Such an impactful thing. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was great.
It makes me think about what I don't think I did something like that with Chandler. Maybe I did. Definitely not the faith walk thing, but what a cool thing.
You took her to get a mani and pedi. That was so sweet.
We probably did that many times. Many manis and pedis for sure.
Yeah. But I think going back to supporting your kids, even when you don't love what it is they're, a lot of people,
they're choosing.
I just remember, honestly, and God bless my parents, but many, many times they let's just say they didn't say, hey, let's run to the Guitar Center and I want to outfit you with all the stuff you need for your music, right? They did, however, I will say this, for my senior year in high school, they bought me a Charvel. It was one of the Eddie Van Halen black and white Charvel, like the one he played on Van Halen 2, which was black and orange. But there was only 3 of these made in the United States. It was back when Charvel Jackson was still, it wasn't the mass-produced kind. And anyway,
and I
great
have to
guitar.
Say, I'm still heartbroken that you sold.
I sold the Charvel. Now there was a lot of stuff going on at that time.
I think I
regretted
we were young,
selling
married,
the Charvel
and we
as
needed
well.
The money and that man.
Yeah, and there was some. Yeah. So anyway, that's a long story. Maybe we can come back to it. Great guitar. And how did we get off on talking about the Charvel?
We're talking about that's what your parents got you.
Yeah. But supporting. Okay, so
yes.
There was more memories of them supporting me. They were beating on the boom, boom, boom. Hey, Brian, turn it down, turn it down, turn it down. Quit plunking on the piano. So that wasn't that encouraging. Now, in spite of that, I learned to play piano by ear, and I can play pretty much anything by ear now, which is a gift, and I love it. I love playing the guitar. I ended up doing that for a living, for part, obviously leading worship for a long time, and still love to play guitar and play music. But I think that it's so important. There's such a difference when you say, okay, maybe I don't love hearing. We didn't love hearing boom, 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 boom upstairs.
The rap beat upstairs.
Boom, the rap when Carson is making those beats, and they, the kids call him Uncle Boom Boom because they hear that boom boom up there. But guess what? We love him doing what he's passionate about. And so, man, put your stuff aside as parents and say, I'm going to support you. Okay, wow, this is different. I didn't know you were going to pick up, the compound bow. I never did that. I was a rifle guy. But okay, well, support the compound bow then. It's just so interesting how many people just veto the stuff they're disappointed in because it's not what they would have chosen. And that goes for, again, career choices, sports, goes for choices in, honestly, more than like even nutrition choices that you think are not, that is like, hey, maybe they've learned a thing or two, and they're choosing to eat differently than you did. And I'm not talking about flaming hot Cheetos, it's just so interesting that parents will overlay. And it's not a matter of life or death, these things. Some of these things I'm talking about, they're just a matter of preference.
Something I've heard you talk about lately a few times that I think is so interesting is the concept that you're not here to create your kid. It's not like you're, designing some little robot and you're putting into them all of your wants and wishes and dreams for them. That's great to share your dreams for them, your hopes and dreams. But really, what I've heard you talk about lately is how they come to you installed already with what their creator has put inside of them, the gifts and the passions, the things that interest them. And so it's really just
it's helping them discover that,
watching that, and just being intrigued. Like, what are you going to be into today, and what kind of brain is developing in you? What kind of things do you have a bent towards? And let me help guide you in that direction to be able to further learn about that.
And let's say Carson may not ever become some world famous music producer, but if he loves it, he's good at it, he's passionate about it. And so go boy. Part of my heart, if I don't play the piano, I don't care if anybody ever hears it. A part of my heart dies if I don't play the piano because I love it. And I happen to be, fairly good at it, but it doesn't even matter. I love it. It's fun. And I feel, proficient or competent. And so, that makes it fun when I can, reproduce stuff that I hear, and I love it. But a part of you dies. And so think about all the would-be music producers that maybe never ever do it because they weren't encouraged by their parents, or they were told, shut that down. That's silly. That's stupid. That won't ever matter. Maybe it's because you can't monetize it, or you think you can't make a career out of it. But wait, how about encouraging that as something that, extracurricular or a hobby? But And so there's the people who never get to it because it wasn't encouraged by the parent, let's say, but maybe it was a coach, a teacher. You hear that. Somebody inspired that kid, even if it wasn't at home or by their family. Someone inspired them to become who they saw in them. And that inspiration was there just enough. And again, I don't think they created the kid. They just saw what the creator had put in that kid, and they fanned it into flame. And it takes that one person to say, man, that's cool. Or I believe in you. You can do that. And we hear that all the time, those stories. And like, will you be that parent? Will you be that parent that goes ahead and equips your kid with the confidence and with the support and all the stuff to make them, whether it's, and maybe you have the next, fill in the blank, that whether it's I don't know, I was going to say astronaut, but you could have it doesn't matter if they're an Olympic, swimmer, or if they're a gold medalist in gymnastics. Are they pursuing the thing that makes their heart beat fast and what makes them feel alive? Yeah.
I think too, it's interesting to think about your own childhood and what drove you and what got you excited and what your bent was. And maybe even think about how your parents were towards you. I think sometimes if you had a parent who was really encouraged and you felt loved when you performed, or things needed to be right, they needed to be perfect, or maybe they were super competitive, really hard on you when you played football or whatever, just wanted you to excel so much. I think sometimes you take however you grew up, and you kind of put that onto your kids, and all of a sudden you're trying to cause them to be this competitive, driven person. And that's not really who they are. And it's not only is it not what they want to do, but it makes them feel bad because they're not fitting into this mold that you're trying to fit them into. Yeah. And so you're fighting against each other with, just trying to replay something that was like your childhood, or how your dad was with you or whatever. So again, I think that just goes back to self-reflection, being self-aware of who you are and what you love, how you grew up, and then saying, this kid that God's entrusted me with is probably completely different from me. And sometimes you may have one that's just like you, and you're like, oh, okay, so this is easy. I understand this kid. But many of them, their personalities are different. Yeah. They go about They learn differently. They're not interested in things that you're interested in. And we want to force them to like what we like and to do what we want them to do.
And what's funny is because Chandler was so much like me and wired like me. And that girl, the apple didn't fall far from the tree, and she's your daughter. And so we thought alike, and I could just almost like telepathically communicate with her. But she ends up, she's very different, has a lot of different stuff in her because she's unique. She's Chandler. Christian, because he was my first son, I thought, oh, he's going to be exactly like me. He's very different, like way differently wired. But now the older he gets and more as an adult, it's like, man, we're so much like the same.
Yeah.
So, it's just that you have to be, you can't overlay your template. All the kids are different and you're going to parent them very, very differently. Our kids, hey, you didn't do that to Chandler. Hey, wait, that's not fair. Carson didn't get that. Like, right. He didn't need that like you did. Right. And I'm going to give him something else. So you parent very uniquely and individually with what they need, which means it's less efficient, if you will. A lot of people just want to, manage things all the same. It makes things more efficient. It's like, no, this is going to take some individual time. This is going to be more detail. It's going to take a little bit more work, right? To parent on purpose and parent intentionally all these different kids.
Long haul parenting, baby.
Long haul parenting. Well, maybe to be continued. I think when we did the anniversary edition last week, I think this was what we were going to talk about. A lot of the things that we gleaned from the parenting workshop that we heard our kids talk about. I think we got into more of this one of our listeners' text that said, hey, talk about supporting your kids and who they choose to date, even if, you at first don't know, you don't know them or you didn't know if you're going to be on the same page as them. But showing that support, it shows a lot of love and trust for your kid. And we've found that when you do that, whether it's, supporting who they're dating, supporting what their interests, you are showing them that you are there to support them and love them no matter what. And we always say, let's say, well, what happens if the prodigal just leaves and just thumbs his nose at what you've offered them, and what you wanted for them and the dreams you had for them. Maybe they did date the wrong person, quote unquote, or did choose the wrong path. We always say the prodigal will always return to where the love is.
Yes.
So just keep loving them.
Yeah.
Keep loving them. And you mentioned, I think early, and maybe, I don't even know if we started over, cut it out, but that many times when you said the adult kids, I said, hey, well, let's talk about our younger, but especially when they're adults, when you can learn to release them, your job as obviously you'll be their parent the rest of your life, but you're not raising them. Matter of fact, I think I said this in the parenting workshop. Most of the time, what I found is our kids are raising us.
Yes.
We're not raising them because we're so young and immature when we're having kids, most of us. And so we don't know what we don't know, and we haven't worked through all our crap. And by the time we figure some stuff out, the horses left the barn, and we've screwed them up. And so just the insight you can gain when your kid can reflect back to you, if you can just take that hard look in the mirror and not live in shame or guilt, and not try to overfunction to correct some of the mistakes you made. Just say you're sorry. Just own it and say you're sorry.
Yeah.
And man, they catch that, man. One thing we heard from our kids is, you blew it a lot, but you always told us you're sorry when you blew it. And that models humility. It models that you're not perfect. You're a flawed human being. And they know they know you are. And so to see you say, hey, I want to do better. That was not about you. That was about me. That was, I think, one of the best things we taught our kids.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yep.
And then just learning to let them go. You've raised them for once they get to be, adults, we still kind of try to hang on to that control instead of saying, God, help me to be a good steward of this child that came to live with me for a little while.
And what's cool?
I trust you to parent. You love them more than I love them. Yeah. So I trust you.
that painful releasing, right? And there's a bunch of painful, we say a series of painful releasings. Yeah. But when you do, they come back. See, when you hover, when you helicopter, they say, get the heck away, you know? And when you don't intrude, when you don't, offer the unsolicited advice, they come to you for advice. And that's what we've seen is so cool. When you let go, they want to come back. But if you're too controlling, if you're too hard, if you're, that person who's interjecting your wishes and all of your advice on every situation unsolicited by the kid, they're going to say no thanks. And so it's been really, really cool to see what has developed when we were able to give them their individual, their autonomy, their let them be them. So now they want to be around Mimi and Papa, and we get to see our grandkids.
Yay.
All right. Well, listen, hey, this was probably, I couldn't string 2 sentences together tonight. Pretty tired, but like I said, bonus episode. Be looking forward to our, probably next week, we will start a series of 2 interviews we did, whether it's going to be video or just audio only. Be looking forward to those. They're really, really cool.
If anyone out there is really great at, what is that? Tech, putting videos together, hit us up.
I don't know if she just did an open call for that, but hit us up and we will consider giving you a job that pays nothing. Anyway, be looking forward to our future episodes. I said it's going to be a short one. I think we went over almost 50 minutes. So yeah. Well, hey guys, be blessed. Go love on your kids. And if you're a kid, go love on your parents. We're all trying the best we can. All right.
Love ya.